Ah yes, hello again, possums. It is I, the conspicuous Moo. And so I'm just touching base and seeing how everyone is enjoying the new Blackwood chapter. I have to say that, I've been a little bit late because I have been having an awful lot of fun in this place. There's been an awful lot to do, and I've gone through most of it bar the raiding in Rockgrove because, it's a bit of a queue. In the guild at the moment, and I don't really feel like pugging it. So, we'll go through the different aspects of Blackwood, some of the good things, some of the bad things, we do run into trouble every once in a while, and, we'll just get cracking, shall we? So, let's start with the launch. I mean, the launch was just very, very smooth. I mean, I think I avoided the first night because I just knew it was going to be chaos, and, as things happen with patches, everything goes wrong, and things break and bugs and things just don't work out the way they're meant to, and I was expecting a couple of maintenances to patch everything up, but I think generally speaking they handled it very well, and the servers seemed to survive, and it was only really during the course of the week that things started to get a little more askew. We had an awful lot of maintenance. Sometimes, we'd have a maintenance every night. So it was getting a little bit silly, but they have now finally come to a place where at least most of the stuff that's meant to be working in Blackwood is working, so that's good. Questing-wise, one of the great things about coming back to ESO is just the quality level of questing is a lot higher than I usually find in World of Warcraft. Now, if you like World of Warcraft questing, that's all absolutely fine for you, but, for example, and not trying to spoil it too much, there's each of these quests seems more like an adventure than, it's like a mini adventure inside of the game. Takes you and has got twists and turns and different interesting characters who are introduced, and, they apologize or make mistakes and then get killed. But, it's a self-contained story. It's not just a quest that says, as you would regularly get in Warcraft, to say, oh, hello, hero, champion, perfect person of the universe. I'm very hungry today. Why don't you go and get me 17 lynx tendons and 12 crocodile snouts? Cheers. I'm talking much more about one of my favourite quests in Blackwood at the moment is the one where there's a writer, a young lady, she's an aspiring writer, and she's fascinated by a ghostly story which takes her to a crypt out in the open, and a ghost appears and says, go and investigate this hut. This is where my son was murdered by this woman who got jealous and poisoned him, and it goes from there, and the entire story develops. The writer gets very involved, additional characters are brought in. There's a lot of conflict. Is the mother at fault here? Is the son? Is the murderess herself? Is there another dark force behind it? And then, you come and you actually make a meaningful decision at the end for the writer character, or whether or not she's going to stay with the love of her life or not. So, that is an awful lot more to that quest. Then your standard issue go and collect some pieces of the rotting corpses of the things that you've just killed. That's not to say that ESO is completely without those kinds of quests. There are plenty of them around. It's just that's a side story. That isn't even the main storyline though, and they still go into that level of detail which I feel is missing a lot, especially in a World of Warcraft world where it's world quests and you've already done them 20 times already. Just a little bit more meaningful and a little more immersive, let's be honest. In terms of world bosses, there are 6 of them, but they are a little uneven. Your success rate will vary depending upon which world boss you've got. I mean, Deathwort is probably the easiest boss. It's a frog, and frogs aren't particularly dangerous unless you eat them. In Australia, anyway, and. But yeah, he's not particularly difficult to defeat, and you can probably get by. But if you go for something like the Goblin King, that's got quite a lot of ads coming in it, and there's lots of explosions going around, and there's also been a bug since the Blackwood chapter went live, which means that you don't always get the kill credit. So I think they're working on it. It's mostly fixed, but because it started with that, everyone thinks the bug is still there. And if the bug is still there, I don't know why it isn't fixed yet. We certainly had enough maintenance to cover that. The delves, which are they're like mini dungeons, if you like. The things that you can solo. They have a boss and they have a few mechanics. They usually have a quest and a skill point. Occasionally, if you're very lucky, and they will have a sky shard in them. That's your general delve description. My favourite is the Undertow Cavern, which is probably the first one you're going to go into, because it's just outside Leowin, which is the hub for the Blackwood zone, and yeah, it's got that real like abandoned mine, Temple of Doom kind of style to it, which is fairly common in ESO delves, to be fair. But I always find those entertaining. I like that sort of thing, and it's got goblins and minotaurs in it as well. So, what more could a Moo ask for, frankly? In terms of public dungeons, there are two now. Now there's Zenithar's Abbey is my preferred one, just because it's a different theme. The other one goes into another evil plan by the Zul'San, who are the baddies in the Blackwood zone, and are the focus of the raid Rockgrove. But Zenithar's Abbey, it's an abandoned abbey, and something terrible happened, and nobody can really work it out. And there's an entire storyline inside of that as well. You start out going after one thing, but the outcome is very different, and you travel through with these people as you go. So so it's very clever the way that they do that, and just aesthetically as well. Zenithar for me, but it doesn't mean the other one's bad. It's just it's just a personal preference thing. In terms of the overarching storyline, I mean, it's not. To be honest, it's not one of my favourites. But it is still very, very well crafted. It was an awful lot of fun. I don't think it was on the same level as, say, Elsewhere. I thoroughly enjoyed the Elsewhere one. But it's still a rip-roaring little yarn. You're going to have lots of adventures and twists and turns, and you get to see some of the characters that, if you've been playing ESO for a while, that you would see again, and Everly Sharparrow, that sort of thing. There is a great supporting cast with other return characters from other DLCs and other places in Tamriel. So they've done very well there. The other thing I really, really like about this main storyline is not just as crafting the twists and turns, but also the fact is that you are part of that story, but you're not the main part. There are other parts and other characters who are fantastically more important to your eventual victory over the forces of evil. And while you play a role, you're certainly by no means the primary people. I kind of like that sort of thing, because I was really getting an awful lot of hero, champion, war walker fatigue. So it's kind of nice to be there but not be the centerpiece. In terms of housing, there are three. There's another inn room, so it's small but cute. I think it's called Pilgrim's Rest. And then there's Water's Edge. Now that's nice. It's a beautiful building. It's yours for about 1 million gold, or I think a little over 6,000 crowns. If you have the option, you'd normally pay with gold. It shouldn't take you too long to get 1 million anyway. But yeah, it's like a waterfront property in Leowin proper, so it's kind of nice. You've got access to all of the main daily hub things and the crafting stations and everything, so it's very convenient in that respect. The other one is Pantherfang Chapel, which we can't actually purchase yet. It's absolutely enormous. It's more than just a chapel, it's an entire castle. So I dread to think how much this is going to cost. I don't think it'll be viable with gold. It's going to be one of those enormous giveaways at the end if you've got all 4 DLCs, or it's going to be 20,000 crowns. There's going to be something, but it is actually amazeballs. It's such a huge space to put all of your things into. And when it comes to housing, I'm always looking out for the house of my dreams. And I think, the first thing I looked at this castle, I went, I'm going to put plants in this. So many plants, because Bosma. So I'm just going to fill it with all sorts of greenery and stuff. The stuff that you wouldn't expect in a castle. Tapestries and large oak tables and people banging their mugs around. No, I'm not going to have any of that. I'm just going to have plants and fountains and bugs. The Oblivion portals, are take or leave. They are, they pop up in around the world. You step into the portal, you take the fight to Merun's Dagon. If you're from Warcraft and you understand this reference, it's kind of like Torghast, and then it's got random mobs, random mini bosses, and then a big boss at the end. The difference with Torghast is it's only 10 minutes of your time maximum. You can fight with all sorts of other people because it's a public dungeon. You can all go in together, and you actually get loot at the end. You get something substantial more than dust. You've got any dust. So yeah, I mean, it's a lovely bit of throwaway fun. The boss mechanics in there, they really have stepped it up. You'd notice this in the Delves as well, to be fair. If the monsters last that long, because everyone is smashing them up at the moment, but the actual mechanics and the movements and stuff is much more involved than it used to be. There's certainly a greater layer of complexity in these ones, so they are a lot of fun to fight. And finally, we will get to the companions. Now, obviously, I still question the amount of development time that's gone into these things. But these companions are growing on me. I will admit that. I've met Miri, but I haven't actually had her follow me around yet. I've got Bastion. Bastion just drove me bonkers the first few days because he was, criticising, my entirely justifiable homicides. And stealing anything, he didn't like that. I'd kill a Daedrat or something disgusting, just for the guts so I can fish, and this guy would be behind me complaining, saying, don't you sanctify any life? So I did find myself several times, swearing at Bastion from this very chair. But I'm getting used to him, and I've got him a new ability now, Comet. So if you have Bastion, you want him as a ranged DPS. I think it's Mage's Guild. Maybe it's... Anyway, Comet. And, it's great. He's a little circle and just goes boom. They actually, he's doing a lot more damage, and he's actually a lot more effective than I actually, gave companions credit for. I mean, there are some people who have gone full gearing companions. I've got some guildies who are gearing them properly and taking it seriously because they want basically an NPC tank, so they can clear out delves faster, they can pull all this stuff, and then the companion can tank it. So yeah, I mean, my main complaint with Bastion at the moment is he does tend to stand in front of my fishing nodes. Don't get in the way of my fishing, man. But other than that, first world problems. It is nice to get the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, and the Undaunted back into the fray, because they're not usually ones that you go after at this point, but if you do those quests, it's quite a good way of building up your rapport, which is still not a system that I'm particularly impressed with, because, anyway. But you can do these quests and you can start leveling up additional abilities for your companions as well. I haven't really done much with Bastion at all. He's got no gear on at all because I'm selling it all, because it's a lot of money in that right now. And until the prices come down, I don't think he's going to be kitted out in the slightest. Because your average purple weapon is going for between $750,000 to $1 million gold. So do you really want to strap that on the back of your companion when you could probably take the mob out yourself? But I think there's even one. There's one guy that's claiming that he managed to tank a trial, like a raid, with his NPC tank. I can't begin to imagine how much that would have cost. Or they must have been extraordinarily lucky, because they would be a full purple gear tank, I would think. But they seem to be a little more resilient than we would have originally given them credit for, so that's good. And a little additional DPS doesn't hurt. So overall, I've had great fun. We've had lots of different adventures in Blackwood are available, and it's all very, very well put together. I've enjoyed all of the delves and all of the public dungeons. The world bosses, for the most part, are excellent. It fits in seamlessly with the rest of Elder Scrolls. So it's just now another adventure hub for you. Because at the moment I'm in the Clockwork City. I'm having a lot of fun in there. Because I want to find all the furniture recipes so I can fill out my house. But I still go back to Blackwood because there are dailies and there's stuff to run around, and if you do the world bosses you can pick up extra motifs. The motifs are particularly valuable at the moment, as you can imagine. But overall very, very positive. And I think it's the first time in a long time in gaming where I'm actually just genuinely enjoying the experience. Possibly something that I wasn't, I'd been playing Warcraft for months but not actually enjoying it. I'm now getting to a place where I'm really, really getting into it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Blackwood. Thank you for listening. If you feel like it, please do like and subscribe, comment and moo. And I will see you in the next one. But until then, I am the conspicuous moo, and a very good evening to you.